Happy Friday and welcome to Career Launch Live. I am your host, Catherine McCord, and I am excited about today's episode because hiring is effed up. It's broken, and we need to fix it. And I have an incredible human coming on the show today, somebody that I admire. We had a fantastic interview on her show. I'll let her tell you all about herself. Let's bring on Angela. Welcome.
Hello. And I love that you bring this up because the whole hiring process is so effed up. Yes, we'll keep it clean verbiage today, but yes.
It's so jacked up though. Like, it's not good. It's broken just start to finish. So we're going to talk about that and how to fix it. But first, tell everybody about you because you're awesome.
Thank you. First of all, so thrilled you slid into my DMs about a few months ago because you are anything short of incredible. But we'll try to be short and sweet with this.
That sounds so creepy though. Wait. You just slid into my DMs. I want to be very clear. I was not hitting on her.
You were you were not hitting on me.
It was in a professional manner.
Yeah, it was the perfect way to we'll say network. I shouldn't say slide in your DMs. Okay.
Yes, because that has a certain connotation to it that is frightening. So
no, Catherine's not creepy. We know this. Right? But my synopsis, let's be short and sweet. So I started recruiting after college. My internship was in recruiting. So I was 21 years old, working for a B2B sales company, calling people left and right. It was awful, but it made me really good at sales and picking up the phone. Fell into recruiting even more after college, helped transitioning military vets find work, found out they don't know what they're talking about, or in a lot of those transitional programs are not up to date. So a lot of veterans fall into being another statistic. And I was like, you can't be another statistic. You're incredible. Let me help you out. So I started
writing. Nice of you.
Yes. So I started writing resumes, just the goodness of my heart. And then I got into technical recruiting where I had exposure to IT, manufacturing, automotive, defense again, and realized, this isn't a veteran thing. This is an everyone.
Everybody.
Nobody knows what they're talking about. C-suite, entry level, doesn't matter.
Nope.
So 2019, I was working a job I hated, very toxic. I mean, too young to be getting gray hairs that early, and just like the Sunday scaries, anxiety, leaving work, going into work all the time. And I unexpectedly got fired from my job. So decided to take my company full-time because it was my little side business, the Resume Rescue. And now today we help job seekers from all walks of life. And I use that experience of I've been the lowest paid employee because I was a woman in the department. I worked nights and weekends, holidays for a minimum wage job. So I use all of that awful experience to get people out of their situations. I stayed at a job 2.5 years. I had no business staying in more than 2 weeks, but it's so now
I've been there. It's okay. No judgment. I get it. Sometimes you got to pay a bill and sometimes you just got to learn, right? Like,
gotta work. Girls got to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it is. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But using that experience, I now help people from all walks of life transition out of industry, go back to work if you're a returning parent. I mean, just every walk of life to be empowered to get back to where you need to be. So, I mean, like we talked about, I've helped C-suite, entry level, everywhere in between. And a lot of people just aren't talking about the hiring process and how awful it is. I mean,
and how it blows. It's horrid. Just like, who came up with this?
Right.
I don't like them. I need to fight them. I want to be put in a ring with them with gloves and just be allowed to just go wild.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
It's insane. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Because I don't want to have my earring pulled out. So that's my line. You can punch me in the face, but don't pull my earring out.
Right.
So priorities, ladies, priorities.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I think a lot of people have forgotten to think about. Right. It's so automatic, this process that we have, that it's just, we don't even think about it. So a few of the jacked up things from the back end of the other side. Maybe it is the backside. You know what? Maybe that wasn't a faux pas. Maybe that was the correct way to say this. But from the back end of this, let me just shed some light for those of you that don't know, because many people watching this will not know. So number one is that whenever you go into hire, the first thing that usually happens is that people copy paste a job description. Just copy paste it. I'm like, No. you, things might have changed. Have you bothered to ask anybody what's actually going on with this role? Roles usually do not actually stay the same from year to year.
No. Mm-mm.
They don't. Have you bothered to talk about the hire process, compensation? Like, where are we with this? So that's the first area, just from the get go. People don't usually have conversations around it.
Correct.
And now there's just some weird things. So we have this hiring technology, applicant tracking systems, which is like a CRM for humans, for those that don't know. And so nobody's checking on these though. Nobody's going like, hey, is this working right? Or nobody's like going in and applying themselves to make sure everything looks good. So what's happening is a lot of questions are being repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's just some weird stuff being asked. Can we talk about that real quick? I have been seeing applications that ask for people's sexuality, like what their actual diagnosis is for their disability, which is not an ADA thing. By the way, no,
No.
that's not a thing. I don't know who's coming up. I think it's a misguided attempt to inclusion. But then there's weird interview questions. Like I actually saw one where they asked if you wanted to be a pirate or a member of the Navy.
What?
I,
I think it's one, it's a fault, like you said, a false attempt at inclusion is number one. And then the
yeah.
whole like pirate, and I've heard that from other jobs, and I've had a few clients send me over jobs, and I'm like, they're trying to be like, look how cool and fun and hip we are, and it's just not working. I mean, you can have an inclusive, fun environment, but if you're one of those, it's like I think we talked about this before, the people on LinkedIn who are like, I'm so authentic, I'm
Oh
authentic,
yeah.
authentic leadership. Like, you don't say it. You either are or you're not. Like, either or. I mean,
Yeah. The cool guy doesn't go around going, I'm cool.
I'm so
That
cool.
doesn't,
Exactly. No.
it's not it.
But it's, I mean, there's other reasons too. And I remember when I worked in defense, you do get tax credits for hiring certain individuals with disabilities. So we had to structure around if they were a disabled vet. So you
Yeah.
can ask those questions, but if you cannot opt out of it, big HR no. I have a friend interviewing right now. And when she started interviewing, she got asked what year she started her career, because we shortened her resume because it would have been 10 pages. She has years
Oh,
of experience.
that's
And they asked her,
sneaky.
I'm like, what do you mean they asked you? She's like, no, they asked me what year I graduated college, what year I started my career, and to walk them through everything. I'm like, okay, well, you're not. She's like, I already pulled myself out of it because I know you're not allowed to ask that based on what you said. I'm like, yeah, you're not allowed to ask
Yeah,
that.
that's sneaky age discrimination. For anyone who's wondering, well, why couldn't you ask that? That is sneaky age discrimination, is what that is.
Right.
Ew.
Or my favorite one that's getting asked a lot is, I had a client I had a preliminary conversation that, because I do recruiting as well still, or recruiting consulting, and they asked, I've had a lot of young women and then they end up like going to be moms, and I want someone that's either already a mom or doesn't want kids in the near future. I'm like, well, you can't ask those things. I mean,
No.
that's a huge discrimination detail. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, they're just asking about my family life, get to know me personally. Or I think a lot of
No, it's sneaky.
or the tell me about yourself. So many people think it's personal. No,
No.
professional synopsis of your career. Nothing personal.
Yes. Yes. You do not know. Yeah, don't do it. It's a trap. And I have seen that a lot in my career. So that's another part of the broken process, that people try to find ways to get around these protections and these laws, right? Um, and then there are people who are trying to genuinely accomplish something good, but then they're accidentally making people think that they're being discriminatory because of how they're going about it. So it's just, there's not very intentional planning, and then there is intentional planning that's gross, like the trying to discriminate thing. I don't understand why that's a thing. Age. Let's just knock this out real quick. So all these discriminations are stupid. All right, all of them. I'm just going to use that word. It's stupid. There's no reason. There's no reason not to hire a Black person. There is no reason not to hire a mother. There is no reason not to hire a person over the age of 50. There is no reason. I mean, it just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. There is literally no reason for that. There's Now I will say, devil's advocate here on the mom one is, ladies, let's be respectful, please. And when we go out on maternity leave, Let's make sure that we're being honest with our employer the entire time. And if you do not intend to come back, don't wait until the day before you're supposed to come back. I have seen that dozens of times, and that's not acceptable either. Don't do that. You know, way before that. Give them notice, let them know. It's okay. That's a beautiful choice. That is a wonderful choice. That's okay, but you need to tell them that. Don't wait until you're supposed to be back to tell them. That's not acceptable. So real quick, I just wanted to throw that. That is the one devil's advocate on that one, because I actually personally know a manager who, because he worked with a lot of people who it wouldn't have made any sense for them to come back to work because of the cost of daycare. They paid well for the position, but it just wasn't a very high pay. It was phone customer service roles. And so he lost a lot of women to maternity leave. And so he was a little nervous about that one, but he never asked, never discriminated, never like, oh, hey, do you plan to use your uterus anytime soon?
Right.
Like, what a weird question.
No.
And you don't ask men that, which is weird, because I've known a lot of guys who have gotten real into paternity leave and real into being the one to take off with their kids when their kids are sick. The roles are shifting, and nobody's going up to a guy and, excuse my language, but saying, "Hey, are you going to use your dick anytime soon?" Nobody's saying that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway, sorry, we're kind of getting off into discrimination, but hiring process.
But that is a part of the hiring process, because
It is.
I've asked this before. It's like, what age is perfect? You're too young if you're in your 20s. You're too old if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. It's like, what, 30 to 35? Like, what's the perfect age, so to say? But that's
no, because then you're still not old enough to be C-suite in most people's mind. I've done it, but most people think that that's too young. It's crazy. Yeah, there is no perfect age. So the one thing that we need to start working on with hiring, I think the place to start is, let's start with teaching people how to overcome their biases, and giving them real education to squash the nonsense that's gotten into their brains. I think that's the first place. What would you say about that? And then what would step 2 be to you?
Well, and it's the bias behind, I mean, we all have bias. People can say what they want. I don't bias. I don't judge. It's, you meet someone, you look at a resume, you do something, you look at somene's LinkedIn profile, you have a bias regardless. I mean, I'll admit it, you'll admit it. It's just a fact. You have a first impression of someone. But it's look around at your team. Is your DEI person someone a member of in the DEI community? What does your board of directors look like? Is it everyone that looks like you? I mean, that's one place where I always look at. Always look at board of directors. That was one of my biggest problems I had with my first job, was there was no women, and no one that was, I think, within 30 years of my age. So it was like, okay,
that's bad.
Not being represented, right? Yeah. But it's looking at that and having the tough conversations with where I think a lot. And I don't even want to judge for everyone, but when people are like, oh, they're just hiring this person because they're a woman, or, oh, they're just hiring this person because they're a member of this community. I'm getting overpassed being not a part of it. It's like, nobody wants to be hired based on their sexuality, based on their race, based on their religion. So they
boo to tokenism. Boo to tokenism.
And I've had clients. I've had multiple. I think actually one you introduced me to, which, it was. She was hired, and her director had told her, "Oh, you're so great. You check 3 boxes. You check being Asian American. You check that you're a woman, and you check that you're the only." I forget the third one, but it was, I think, because she lived in another country at the time. Her director or CEO, whoever VP, had said, "Oh, thank God you check all 3 boxes for me." Nobody wants to be that person either. And that's where people are like, "Oh, well, what about me?" And this isn't. It's like, there's enough food to go around the table. It's having a seat at the table.
Yeah. Oh God. And I want to hit on that too. So your hire process can be inclusive without having tokenism. In fact, you shouldn't have tokenism. That's the opposite of inclusion. Inclusion just means that everybody, in terms of hiring, very specifically, in terms of hiring, means that everybody has a shot, right? And then that the process is built for their ability to go through the process comfortably and naturally. So what I mean by that is, if you have certain people in the neurodiverse community, they won't be able to do well with open-ended questions. So you need to structure things differently. And it's not that they're shady, it's not that they're dumb. They just have a different way that they process. So you need to ask them differently. Some people don't do well with camera on, like me, because some days they have seizures. Now, I as clearly I can be on camera, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there are certain days where it's just not a thing for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't
No.
mean that they're being shady or avoiding or they're doing something else. It just means that they need to not be on camera. It's that simple. Stop reading into it. And having captions on video calls, things like that. So building an inclusive process means thinking about the other person's experience. And I think that that's huge.
It is
It's
huge.
just
Right. And
thinking
it's
of other
little things.
humans.
We're both neurodivergent professionals, and it's
Yep.
little things like captions or
Yeah.
things I never knew I needed because I'm newer on my journey of learning. I've lived with ADHD my whole life, which I didn't realize. I have my depression, my anxiety, and things I am now newly medicated for. But I'm like, wow, is this how people think all the time? Like when I
Yeah.
have my Adderall and things like that. But I use closed captioning, like I get paid to on videos,
Yep.
on calls, on everything. And I'm so much more in tune with it. And I wish I
Yes.
would have had that in a corporate setting or,
Yes.
in recruiting. I work for a staffing agency, but it's very metrics driven. I
Yeah.
would wait till the end of the week because again, the ADD comes in, ADHD, and I would hit my numbers, but I
Yeah.
cannot physically sit at a desk all day. I love being
Right.
hybrid. I'm at my co-working space today. All my employees work completely remote
Yeah.
because they know you need to get up. I can't sit at a desk all day. I do,
Yep.
but I need to walk around. I'm going to go
Right.
BS with my friends at the front desk after our meeting. And for about 20 minutes, I'm going to feel
Yeah.
refreshed. I'm going to go to lunch. I'm going to
Yep.
come back and work for another 6 hours. But
I have friends who use yoga balls to
yes,
do this the
to
entire
balance.
time they're talking. Dr. J, who's been on my show, love her to death, and she is always on that yoga ball, man. You can always just see her dancing around, and I love it. And that's how she focuses. That's what people don't understand. They think that you're, fidgety or that you're no. That's how they focus, is to use these different tools. And I think
Right.
that's fascinating. I'm obsessive compulsive. I need everything to be
Right.
correct. So one thing too that always bugs me in hiring processes is when they overtly misword something, when they ask a question incorrectly. I fixate on that. And it's okay. Look, I'm not demanding perfection, but at least on something where in terms of verbal communication. But when you're putting something out there, like on your applicant tracking system or on your website, please have it proofread,
Grammarly
and
is great.
and Grammarly is also great. But please be careful with that kind of thing, because I actually know multiple people who will get out of an application and go, and they tell me it's because, well, I don't want to work for people who are this lazy that they can't even, get this right. So
I
that
agree.
goes both ways, folks. Another part of the hiring process that just makes me absolutely insane is the number of interviews that people think that they need.
Yes. I'm obviously very passionate about all these things, hence I've been on your show a few times now, but this is the thing. I mean, I'm so blessed. I have a wonderful client right now that they are just making this process so smooth. They give concrete feedback and they say, hey, we're not moving forward with this person, great person, but not because of X, Y, and Z. Awesome.
Right.
I can convey that to the hiring manager or the client, the candidate. But these hiring process, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but I always say trust your gut. Obviously, not on a doctor, not on an engineer, lawyer, things.
Right. Right.
Everyone has to
Trust your
prove they
gut.
have the skill set. Like you're not for a C-suite role, you're not going to just, I feel good about this person, I'm going to hire my friend. But if you're between
Yeah,
people,
don't do that.
No, that does not work. It's trusting your gut on it. You could always train on skill sets. I mean,
yes.
I am so blessed where I have 4 amazing employees, and we actually were hiring for one position. I ended up making it 2. I was hiring a salesperson, client communications, and someone that had some writing experience. So I had one candidate who was really great on the writing side. His work was incredible. I'd already spoken about careers, even in college. I mean, just impeccable work experience. But I couldn't see him as much on client facing.
Right.
My candidate number 2, who was like a mini me and just a really good with clients, not as strong on writing. I loved both of them. I worked with my team and we loved both of them. We decided to hire both, make 2 roles, make them hourly instead, but it's this hiring
Perfect.
process that you can change it up. Obviously, if you're a big corporation, it takes some hoops and bounds, but I go through 2-3 interviews max. I either like you or I don't.
Max. Yeah.
And I'm not,
That's
I
the
don't want
end.
to interview people for hours. I don't know how, like Amazon, not to hate on Amazon, but I'm going to. I have had clients that have gone through 9 to 11 hours worth of interviewing.
Which is insane.
Like
That is clinical. Unless you are hiring a C-suite person, no.
Right. No.
No.
I mean, if it's, if you're going to coffees, if you're going to dinners, that's fine where it's like,
yeah.
Do both at the same time. But I hate,
crazy.
Want to hear my horror story? My number one horror story from recruiting?
Sure.
I still think about this kid all the time. He's a grown adult now, but I still think about him. And I had a candidate. They were working for, it was going to be for one of the video game companies that I will not name, that I was one of the recruiters on the account, and they wanted him to make 40-hour like virtual game. Essentially, he's put 40 hours of his time in to make this game to see what he was capable of doing. He does this. They will not even interview him. He spent 40 hours doing it. And
oh my God. That's why I don't know. That right there. You can that is why I tell people never participate in that nonsense. Nope. Plus, if somebody wants you to complete a project during your interview process, you need to be paid for that.
Absolutely.
That is labor. And then you also need to sign something so that if it's like an innovative type of thing and you're showing them how to do something,
right?
Sign something that if they use it, you get paid additional funds on top of that, because that's intellectual property and it's worth something. So in fact, I had a company at one point try to pull that with me. Like, well, we need you to design the whole recruiting process and the inclusion process. So you want me to do the job for free? Well, no, that's not. I said, no, that is exactly what you just asked. So I said, either correct it and pay me, or understand that that's completely unethical and I'm not participating in that. I was just real blunt with them because I was like, what? I don't understand why companies would even start to think that that's acceptable. So I think that they know it's not, and they're trying to get away with it. I can't even begin to fathom somebody thinking that that's ethical. So don't do that. Companies don't do that. And skills assessments, I even have kind of a thing with that, because some people are not good at tests. So be careful how you do it. Maybe have different options, and they need to be short. It needs to be something that takes 30 minutes to an hour max. And that, by the way, counts as an interview step. So when we're saying have no more than 2 to 3 steps, that's one of your steps. So it's that, and then like a total, and the HR interview counts, the recruiter interview counts. I have people try to pull that too. I'm like, no, that's still a step. So use your steps wisely. Don't 2 to 3 steps max. If you're doing like VPs or directors, maybe 4. That's it. And then only C-suite gets to go above that. That's it. And this drawing things out for months, and you don't need to talk to every candidate. What is that? What is this? Let's just talk to candidates for the fun of it. We found this one that we really like, but let's just keep talking to other people just in case.
I never understood that, because I of course have been in this process my whole career. I've been in recruiting career services my whole career, but I never understood the let's see who else we can find, because it's a waste of time.
Well, and a lot of times you lose that first person, and then they're like, well, they just didn't really want to work for us then. No, they're not stupid, and they didn't hold on for a maybe when they got a sure thing. That's what that is.
Exactly. And it's so interesting, because even for these higher level roles, like I just hired for an enterprise account exec, high level, the homework they give people at the sales level is a fake demo. So they give you everything you need to know, and it's saying, okay, sell me on the product, not even their own product, which I love. And I'm like, that's
cool.
Awesome.
I like that. That's actually a good interview.
Yeah. It's a half hour to an hour with the owners. That's the 4th round, final round. You either get an offer or you don't. And it's based on, I think this was the 3rd round, 4th with the recruiter screen, but fine. So there's companies that do it really well, and not, like you said, the intellectual property on that. But this whole process sucks. I mean, it's garbage. It's awful. It's not what it used to be. I do feel for a lot of individuals myself, but I also and this is fresh on my head and my mind, and I do feel it's necessary to bring up. We do recruiting screens for every candidate.
Right.
Not every candidate, but everyone that looks good.
Right.
And you as an individual still need to be respectful on a recruiter screen. We had one.
Yes. What is that? There's this new trend of people think that they can be real snooty to recruiters, and I don't know where that's coming from.
Oh, I have a good one for you. So myself and my lovely recruiter, Elena, that I love dearly, we do screens. Like we'll do a preliminary screen, check the boxes. Are you crazy? Are you not? What are you looking for? Why are you looking? I mean, that's a
homicidal check. No.
Right. The gatekeepers. Exactly.
Right.
Last night she had one and someone asked super intricate details about the certain system and how this client uses it. Something I don't even know the answer to because I'm not in this role. No one knows it unless you're the VP of sales.
Yes. Yeah.
She answers it and she's like, hey, I'll get you that answer, or that's a really great question for the next round of interview if you do get it, but let me get you the answer. This candidate rips her a new one. You're terrible at your job. Good luck ever being a recruiter. You're wasting my effing time. Blah, 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 blah. Ripping her a new one.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick. So a few things on this.
Yes.
Number one, let me explain to you what a recruiter should and should not know. They should know about the company and in general. They should know about the team in terms of the general makeup, who's in what position, so on and so forth, about how many people, the general scope of the team. So in other words, if it's an IT team, they might say this is a development team working on the website. That's going to be the end of it. They don't need to know more than that. That is for the hiring manager. They need to know about benefits. They need to know about compensation. They better be able to answer that compensation question. So those are the things they should know. They're not going to know the intricate details. They're not going to know that. And what's interesting is people think, oh, that makes you lower level. Nope. Because guess what? Those directors and all that are interviewing for that, they don't know the recruiter's job either.
No.
Just that you understand. They don't know how to do that. And there is a skill to it. There is a whole thing that goes with that. So just first of all, know that. Second of all, be careful being rude to recruiters, especially agency style ones, but really any recruiters, because a lot of us know each other.
Right.
And we share these kinds of things. And not only that, you will be real surprised how occasionally that same recruiter, because that's the field in which they recruit, pops up at another company that you end up interviewing at later. And they're going to remember you. They're going to know that name. I have a good friend who's in recruiting, and he has an actual list that's like live on Google, and other recruiters can access it and be like, oh yeah, boom, jerk, don't want. And just
well, let me know, because I would love to add said candidate to it. So you let me know. It was awful. I mean, I was like, I'm still upset about it, because she's like, all I could think about was good thing they didn't say this to you, because you would have ripped him a new one. I go, I absolutely would have, because no one be disrespectful to my kiddos, my employees.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's to me, but don't mess with my people. I will come at you. I will come at you so hard.
And this is where us recruiters, we get a bad rap all the time. There's bad people in every single role out there. There's bad salespeople. There's bad owners. There's bad execs. There's bad everyone. But and some people do recruiting very bad. Yes, I agree.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
It's a twofold process where you respect, number one, across the board, but let's make this, I mean, us recruiters that are good recruiters come together and want to improve this process. You and I are having this conversation right now. Yeah. There's so many great individuals who agree with us and say, like, we need to change.
That want to fix it.
Right. So let's all just try to help each other and be on the same page and not be disrespectful.
On that note, and yes, never be disrespectful. There's not an excuse for that. And no call, no showing interviews, either directions. Recruiters don't do that to candidates. Candidates don't do that to recruiters. It's a whole trend right now. Again, I don't get it. We need to cut it out. We need to bring respect back to hiring, mutual respect. But on that note, so one thing I've started to learn is that with all these problems, right, the lack of organization, the lack of communication. Well, first of all, people email your candidates. It's called an ATS. They have an automatic email feature. It's not that hard. Use it. That really bugs me. Learn how to manage your time. That's a big part of it. Hiring teams, manage your time. But then here's the other one that I want to put back on the candidates is tell them the problems. If you don't tell them, they don't know. Now, if it's something like obvious, like that they need to be better organized, okay, well, they should know that. There's not very much you can do. But if their ATS is jacked up, if their application questions are jacked up, tell them. I've actually sent companies emails like just so that this is a thing that's happening, on the back end. Let them know your experience during the interview. Say, this was not inclusive. This is why. And companies, when you hear that, that's a statement, not a question. When someone tells you this is something wrong with your process, that is a statement, not a question. And now there may be reasons that you do it that way, but you need to look at them and go, now hold on. We're hearing, and how many people haven't told us?
Right.
How many people have we lost that didn't say anything? And so respond with curiosity, not ego.
Yes.
When you get these feedbacks. But candidates, tell us, say, hey, because I've had candidates do that with me. I try real hard to create a good relationship. And so when it works, then I get the feedback. They'll go, hey, just, your client's doing this. And I don't think that's really that good. And then I get to go to my client and be like, hey, just, being told this, I need you to do this. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. And also on that same note, because this is some feedback I've been getting a lot, hiring managers and HR people, call people. Hello? Like, I get the email is easier, and I always start with that too. But if you don't hear back within like 24 hours, pick up the phone and call them. Your thing might have gone to junk. They may not have seen it. So pick up the phone and I don't understand this. I have literally had a hiring manager that refuses. She just will message me and go, well, they're not getting back to me. I'm like, they're salespeople. Did you text or call them?
Right.
Just not getting this. Well, not getting so.
Right. Just follow up. I mean, I don't want to make this process harder than it is, but LinkedIn messaging sucks. It's always like one gets buried. I mean, my birthday was last week, and we've learned, because this is
happy late birthday.
Thank you. But year 4, so I have one of my employees helps me manage it, so no messages get lost. So we preemptively were like, okay, we're gonna get the 5,000 automated, like happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. So I always tell people too, it's like, it's okay to send another message a week later or check in.
Yes.
Don't blow us up. I had one candidate, I revoked him because he was blowing us up, and I didn't have feedback.
Calm down.
I was like, I don't have feedback. I'm not lying to you, and I'm not blowing up my client. Like,
I do let people know. Like, hey, I have checked in.
Right. I do too.
Nothing. Mm-hmm. As soon as I know, you will know. And I stay on my clients, and I set that expectation. But y'all, there's only so much we can do. Like, there is only so much.
I'm encouraged. I want you to get a job. I don't get paid until you
get paid. Yeah, I get paid when you get, or I get a bonus or whatever. Like my work stops when you and good things happen when you get a job. I am invested. Yes.
Right. I want this as bad as you do. So I get it. But
yes.
I mean, don't blow people up. Send an email, send a message, check in. There's nothing wrong with just doing that, because I try my hardest to not get LinkedIn messages buried, but sometimes it does, because it doesn't favor the ones at the top like Gmail does. It will just bury them if you keep getting messages. So
yes,
it's just, we're all human. I'm not perfect. I mean, I've missed emails, I've missed calls, I've missed everything. I mean, I stopped looking at the notifications on my phone, like the iPhone that tells you how many you have a day, because it's
depressing. Don't do it.
I can't look at it.
It's horrible.
At the end of the night, but it's a lot.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to give a few tips, and I want you to think about your absolute best tips, because I know you have like the best ones as to how to fix this hire process. So you prepare mentally, because I think it's going to be great. So number 1. Respond with curiosity, not ego. When people give you feedback, hiring teams, whether it's another member of the company, whether it's a candidate, whether it's a random person on LinkedIn, and you hear them saying something that's contradictory to what you're doing, listen and see if you can't learn something. That's number 1. Number 2, check your technology. Actually go in and go through the application process a few times. I have seen several application processes lately where they are asking the EEOC and ADA compliance stuff 3 different times. Yes. Why? Like, pay attention to your technology. And use your technology. Use the automatic emails, use the reminders, use your calendar so that your recruiting team can schedule your interviews and you're not constantly canceling them. Okay. So use your technology, make sure it's working well. Ask for feedback.
Yes.
Ask for feedback, and create active training for overcoming biases in hiring. And it could be silly biases, by the way. It could be, we're not necessarily talking like racism and all that. No, there could be ridiculous biases that you have in there that just need to go. All
Yep.
right. So active training for that, active work on that. That's very important. And then I'm going to give you one that's just, I feel should be common sense, but somehow it's not. Don't be a jerk and use your freaking manners.
Yes.
When you're hiring people, don't tell them something and then not do it.
Right.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't talk down to them. Don't be respectful. Get back to them. Be a human freaking being. This is very important. You would want the same thing, so just don't be a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now, what are yours, Angela?
Well, I agree with all of the things you said. So to try to not to repeat, but I might. Respect, number one. We're all human. Be nice to everyone. Everyone's going through their own things. Like we shared a little bit on mental health. I mean, something gets missed. Don't rip someone a new one. Be respectful.
It happens.
Number two, be like you said. Turn the seats around. Switch seats.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going through the process, and I say this all the time. This is a big conversation on LinkedIn. Is you went through the hiring process. You worked at this company. Why would you want to do all of this again? That's what I always say when people are like, wow, like, I don't get it. I know you denied me, but thank you for just an answer, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Number three, again, don't jump both sides. Don't make your candidates jump through everything. And you as the candidate, don't jump through everything. You have to think of the hiring process as like dating. Are you going to throw it all out there and, give all your intellectual property on the first date? No. Got to work. It's got to work for the good details and stuff like that. But it's just, we need to have conversations. We need to all come together. We need to call out these bad processes. People need to talk about it. We're all on the same page. I have the same conversations with an entry-level high school graduate, college graduate, as I do C-suite executives who everyone's just trying to figure it out. Everyone's stressed out and there's just not enough support.
And stop judging just based on the resume, because we're not hiring these people to interview. We're not hiring these people to make resumes. Calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Calm down with that.
And I could say just as much on one side as I can on the other because I see it from both perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
Put some love into your resume. Don't just put one word on it.
Well, yeah.
Put some bullet point. That's a whole other conversation we won't get into, but just do the thing. I mean, you need help. Reach out for help. You got this. It's just, it sucks and you're not alone in this process.
I love that. And my final tip of the day, because it's one I actually totally forgot to address that I meant to, but we got off onto other things, is
for us.
It happens. It's so normal for us. Neurodiversity is stop creating candidate profiles and your ideal candidate profile. Stop doing that because you're creating a bias in your brain and you're telling your brain that this is the only correct. And you're like, no, I'll accept something else. No, you won't, because you've told your brain that this is what's ideal. So instead of that, focus on the problem that you're solving and a human that can do that. And keep it simple. So with that, thank you so very much for joining me, Angela. Everybody should connect to her if you need help with your resume, with your job search, if you need help finding humans for your company, whatever it is, reach out to her. She works all sides of the desk. She is amazing. What are your final thoughts?
Thank you for having me. I mean, reach out when you need help. The job's not going to change. You hate it now. You're going to hate it a year from now. Don't let another one go by. And just, again, shameless plug, I offer free consultations. You literally will lose nothing from it. We offer free webinars and workshops. Yes. So if you're embarrassed about your resume, we're doing one May 17th on LinkedIn Live. Like, just use the resources available to you and make sure they all have hiring experience. There's a lot of
Oh my gosh. Yes. Also that. So thank you again so very much for joining us. Be great, everybody. Same time, same place next week. See you soon.